Cue the music, Jonathan Fibonojji. One of my favorite quotes by Martin Luther King. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So what do you care about? What's important to you? Jonathan Fibonojji. Well, one thing I care about, well, you can just look at my Twitter. I'm a nature, DAD, stock trader, travel guide, teacher, book reader, cannabis advocate, hashtag MRA, photographer, newbie comic. In fact, I've been showcasing some of my prints. There's that one. And I saw something on Facebook that pissed me off, and I know I'm the only one that can say that. Man, I hate Facebook. Well, I saw something that's really important, and unfortunately, turn down my Braveheart music. By the way, here I am, Jonathan Fibonojji, La Jolla, California. Tweet me at Fibonojji. Drop me some PayPal. Go to americana417@gmail.com if you like this content. Okay, here you go. Look at it. The Austin American-Statesman. Look at this. It says, judge must undergo sensitivity training after a tree and rope post. Here he is, a Burnett County judge. Now, I'm not talking about the individual. I'm talking about the position and judges and how important good judges are. And then, I've talked extensively about federally protected statuses. And what are federally protected statuses? And well, those are just groups of people that are federal government. A federal protected status is just, it's a class, it's a classification. It's a group of people that our government has decided is vulnerable, and vulnerable so much that they need federally protected status protection, such as like racism, or maybe somebody who's handicapped with the American Disabilities Act, or there's all kinds of federally protected statuses. Race, gender is one too, and that's one that I particularly care about because I'm a DAD, or a Dad Against Discrimination, and if you only knew what happens in civil courts, in my opinion, and this is Jonathan Fibonojji here, in my opinion, there's really four main courts in the United States of America. There's obviously the Supreme Court. Then there's just the criminal court that we all know, that we all kind of watch on television, that we all think is pristine and honorable, full of honorable judges, of people who are making good, hard decisions. That's the criminal court. Then there's a civil court, which is really just code for this is where women get what they want. They could do extortion. There's all kinds of things that happen in the civil courts that you wouldn't believe, and you wouldn't believe that gender is a federally protected status. In fact, here you go. Here's another example. So what's the other one? What's the other court? Well, Guantanamo Bay, or Gitmo. Now, some of these courts are so illegal. There's such a divestiture of what we meant in the Bill of Rights, and it's what we meant with the Constitution. So here's just a real-life example of just really a judge that needs to be replaced. When they're making these kinds of statements, how old is this gentleman here? Just think of the average judge and how many hundreds, if not thousands of cases and tens of thousands of lives that these people will influence. And that's why they go into laws. They want that power. And sometimes they become so corrupt that they make comments like this, and they talk about, he was asked to undergo sensitivity training, and we all know racism is not really something that goes away with sensitivity training. Check this out. So why should you care? Why is this even important? Well, I think there's a saying somewhere. It says, beware for whom the bell tolls. Here's a Texas judge wearing pussy hats. Everybody thinks that's funny and cute. But think about it. This judge is supposed to honor federally protected statuses, protect men, and this judge is so blatant in her hatred of men, she's wearing a pussy hat. Now just imagine if you're a minority man, or perhaps a dad of 2 or dad of 3, and this judge, who's promised to be fair and equitable, is telling you by her literal appearance that she is going to destroy men. or as Hillary Clinton calls it, the new resistance. The future is female. So why is this important? Well, let's go back to this guy. We have to care about the integrity of our judges. And I just went through a civil case. That's what really opened my eyes to what really happens, of how, really how just basic American rights, like I was divested of counsel in my civil case. I had to defend it. I'm not a lawyer. I had to prepare my own motions. Again, I was divested of counsel. So I'm maybe a little bit more particular about the integrity of courts than the regular person. But again, let's go back to Hemingway, for whom the bell tolls. You might be watching this, you might be a feminazi, or you might be a person who hates men, you might love the idea of pussy hats or racist judges. But think about this. What if your children or your son goes before a pussy hat judge in 20 years? What could happen to your children? And see, we love the idea of these judges doing our, social genocide. We have divested all of our Jim Crow laws, all of our hatred into the court system, and our court systems are really just Jim Crow racism institutionalized. Well, Jonathan Fibonojji, I have a voice, and I want to empower the voices, and I want to speak to truth, and I love this quote. Martin Luther King. So next time you see on Facebook a judge that's simply getting pat on the wrist, sensitivity training, just remember this guy here. Show you a real life example. It's a story about an Asian boy, a little teenage boy in Round Rock. And he was given over 10 years for speaking against the judge's lack of integrity. An Asian boy in Round Rock, I'll leave his name off for anonymity purposes. But he simply was a teenager, I'm not sure exactly what the charges were, but he told the judge that he didn't want to stand in her court. That was the literal charge. He didn't want to stand in her court. And that ultimately, that and some other events caused him to get 10 years in prison. Now here's a 17-year-old Asian kid in Round Rock, Texas, that caught 10 years for exercising his First Amendment political speech of not standing before a judge in her courtroom. And he caught, I think, 6 months, and then he got stupid and threatened that judge. And so I'm not recommending any sort of violence. I'm Martin Luther King. But I do believe we should speak intelligently against this guy. Let's disbar this guy for 10 years, 6 months. Let's disbar him. Let's look at all of the cases that he might have brought his racism to other people's lives. And how many thousands of minority men has this man affected and hurt? Jonathan Fibonojji's out. What do you care about? I care about the integrity of the courts, because I have children, and I know that for whom the bell tolls. You guys be good. Americana417 at gmail.com.